Okay, we're back. Uh, after, a DC Cup video. Just figured I'd put up my current deck list. This went very well. Overall, for this season, I've had a 66% win rate. Literally every 2 out of 3 games I was winning. I played almost 100 games. With this specific deck list, I actually had an 85% win rate. I tried one that was supposed to be anti-troll, and that one had like a 55% win rate. But I'm willing to say like maybe the other deck list just got like unlucky. But I think realistically it has to do with how the deck plays into Cool Tune specifically. But I'm just gonna talk about the list choices real quick, especially in comparison to what I played in the Duelist Cup. Well, we'll just run through it. Playing one Maxi, I think this is the only hand trap that's just generally worth playing, generally worth drawing. 3 Ray, obviously Ray's an insane starter. This is how you out Rose Whip, although that's not going to be, I wouldn't even say, this is how you out Rose Whip like the most efficiently, I guess. Because this card is an annoying piece of garbage, glad they're banning it. Rain to Zero is pretty good against Rose Whip most of the time. Sometimes they just have Ash, which makes that really annoying, but that's just how it goes. 2 Rose. We're playing a Pot of Desires, and also sometimes you just need names. Rose is a name. She'll do. 3 Upstart. Draw cards. Spell Engrave. Free. Rhoda searches you a name. This gives you 6 normal summons. I think you could cut maybe, but I feel like most often there are like 2 types of losing games, I feel, and one of those is you draw too many normal summons, and the other one is you don't draw any, and I'd rather draw a Ray than nothing. I'd rather draw 2 Ray than no Ray, I guess. And this version of the deck has a couple of cards that let you remove cards from your hand for profit, so it's like fine. And like having a Ray in hand anyways can sometimes be like good follow-up, or let you just not play into Talents or Thrust unnecessarily by having guaranteed follow-up in hand, but that's kind of situational. Run Fuse Foes because I'm playing goods, and I have discards cards, so if you want to play something else here, I think this is very cuttable. I'm playing one Pot of Desires. Hear me out for my argument on this. Like I said, one of the worst things that happens in this deck where you lose is because you draw multiple redundant cards when you need to have a bunch of live cards. The second and third Pot of Desires are more redundant cards you have, and worse, the second and third copies are like never good. Like you can never activate those copies. It's not good discard fodder. It doesn't have good follow-up if like you don't need it for discard fodder. It's just like this dead card that's like you're gonna send it for Droplet or Super Poly for the second and third copy specifically. The first copy is almost always good, so just play the first copy. Sometimes you draw it, you just have a Pot of Greed in your deck essentially. That will sometimes banish 2 Widowmakers and make the entire game really awkward, but that's neither here nor there. You can banish cards. I've banished all 3 Ray. You can banish 2 Rose, which will be really awkward with your interaction because of 0. But in general, it just doesn't matter. You just draw 2 cards and it's great. And you can't, like I said, you can draw too many normal summons. You can't draw another Pot of Desires. I like playing one. I think playing one feels good, and I think playing extras makes it worse Upstart Goblin sometimes, and frequently enough with this deck specifically, where I actually think it's worth considering playing less than 3. I specifically play 1 because I've never been playing 1 and been unhappy with it, but I have played 2 and 3 and constantly been unhappy about it, so I wouldn't cut the 1, but I don't add the other 2. I do think it's probably, though, maybe not in this specific version with the amount of discard cards you have, but it's probably honestly better to play like 2 more copies of this than Metal Foes and Foolish Burial Goods, just for the consistency it adds to the deck in general, and as a card that you don't need anything happening to activate. But that doesn't mean I have to be happy about it. Goods, this is to send fusion. Sometimes you'll have a hand with Rose and goods, so you can send engage, then you can get back engage, and then you can start going off from there. Goods, like I said, goods and fusion are like okay. I never hated them. I don't love them. Fusion is usually actually... Ironically, I've had a lot of hands where I've been like, oh, Metal Foes Fusion, that's really nice to draw for discard fodder here. But goods, I'm like, well, I can make it so I won't draw Metal Foes Fusion. And you draw a card later. But it puts 2 spells in graveyard. Like I said, you can send engage for a Rose normal summon. You can send the maneuvers to graveyard in order to set that up. Jamming Waves, this is my concession for going second. I think there are a lot of cards that are set that you can target with Jamming Waves, like Cool Toon Synchro. This card kind of makes them... It makes it really awkward for your opponent. And, like, if they don't preemptively activate these, you also get to, like... destroy whatever they try to synchro, which is just really nice, or you just get to get rid of a monster on field. Do keep in mind, there is one of these guys that protects, Loudness War. Other tuners you control cannot be destroyed by card effects, so just be aware when Loudness War is on the field. And don't try to destroy other things. Playing 2 talents. Like I said, drawing duplicates is bad, but Talents is a really good card, and follow-up Talents is usually really good. So if you draw 2 Talents, it's kind of okay. And I do want to draw it, like, really bad. I think it's very good when you get hand draft going first. Looking at your opponent's hand tends to do a lot for you. But also sometimes you can draw 2 cards if you need it, because you got hand trapped. MST is here because we're playing Radiant Typhoon. Super Poly is here because basically what Super Poly is this. It's good enough against basically any matchup where I feel perfectly comfortable saying that it's okay. It'll be fine. I'm not unhappy to draw it. It does enough in most matchups. However, what it does do that's important and why the card's in here is because there are some bad matchups that it will turn into matchups you can now win. An important thing, we're playing a couple cards here for Rose Whip right now. This is one of them. So for Rose Whip, you basically have Super Poly, you have Widow Anchor, and you have Droplet, in addition to like a Ray normal summon. And all of those immediately out Rose Whip, basically, by either negating it, getting rid of it, something like that. And I've just found that to be very powerful, which is why the card's in my deck. Playing Call by the Grave just negates hand traps and negates engine. This is a stupid card that should be banned. Drones, like I said, we want names, and I think this is better than having like another Rose or something. Also importantly, drawing 2 Rose is okay, drawing a 3rd Rose is bad. It's also a quick play spell for Radiant Typhoon. Just a solid overall card. Widow Anchor, it's Widow Anchor, we got 3 of it. Droplet, let you do Widow Anchor Steal, Droplet, Widow Anchor Steal, which is good. Linkage is another name starter. Notably, we're playing 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, which I feel like is low for a normal deck, but I'd argue is like annoyingly high for Sky Striker specifically because you want exactly 1. But I do think you want to draw that exact 1. I'm playing 3 Lemniscate. It's probably objectively wrong, but I love playing these cards in multiple, especially when I have discard outlets. It just feels really good to set up in the graveyard, to set up for X interaction. I've actually had it where a Cool Tune opponent looked at Engage and Limniscate on top of my deck, and they banished the Limniscate, probably because they thought I wasn't playing 3, and so they thought they were possibly cutting me off of an important resource permanently, if I was only playing 1, because I think most Sky Striker players are probably playing 1. But like I said, I have a lot of discard outlets, and I think Limniscate is... Limniscate's really good to put in Graveyard. And so you have, like, 3 ways to put it in Grave, and sometimes you can activate it twice. This lets you even activate, like, the Graveyard effect once, and still have just only ever use Engage, while using Limniscate to bounce all your spells back and extra deck monster back, without ever needing to Kagari or Zero out of Graveyard. But frankly, if you're in a position where you're getting this out of Graveyard, you're probably winning anyways, and it doesn't really matter. But I love value, so I like being able to do that. This is probably wrong. But I really like playing this card at 3. Like I said, I think the Foolish Burial Goods package is a little questionable. I think 3rd Limniscate you could cut. If you wanted to play another Striker card, I think Shark Cannon could replace any of those cards. I just don't think Shark Cannon is on average does enough. But as a one of search target, it can sometimes come in really clutch. But I just haven't been like, oh, I need this, and it's worth it to play in my deck, so I haven't been playing it. You can play multi-role with the theory that you can send something and then be able to do stuff unrespondable, while also having long-term value. I feel like this is too easily removed, where you'll activate multi-role and then they're just gonna get rid of it, or get rid of whatever you set, so you're gonna have to go really neg to get it live. And sometimes that's worth it, but I think you need a good hand for multi-role to be a good card in your hand, or for your opponent to be playing a deck that doesn't have spell trap removal, which sometimes happens, but I feel like the popular decks have spell trap removal. So I'm not on multi-role. Area 0, I kind of like playing when you're also playing multi-role. We're not playing multi-role. And I'm not even playing Chicken Game. And I think Chicken Game's better than Area 0, honestly. But this is another piece of consistency, which you can use with Vision to get into Ray. I think it's worth thinking about. But I don't think it's worth it. Eagle Booster, I don't believe in. However, I don't think that means it's necessarily wrong to play. I do think there are some times, with Sky Striker in particular, where this would allow you to search it and then make your 0 unaffected during your opponent's turn, which would allow you to guarantee you don't die, and also guarantee your interaction at a critical point in your opponent's combo for your pop. I just generally don't believe in it. Once again, I feel like it's kind of like Shark Cannon, where it's I don't really want to hard draw it. I need to take out cards I definitely like right now, in order to fit it in. But I think that's worth considering. Those are the ones I think are worth considering. I think Camp is not worth considering. It's just not good enough. Like I said, our going second concession is we're playing Jamming Waves. And I think you only play one going second concession, because you don't want to draw a bunch of them. You could actually argue that Talents is a going second concession, but this is good against Sand Traps, which I think are popular enough that when you're going first, you're likely to get hit by something during that main phase. But sometimes they'll do it early and you don't even get that. I think Striker is a deck you want to try to go first with, but make sure you have powerful options going second, and I think this deck list enables that, which is another important part of Eagle Booster and Shark Cannon, which is that it keeps you from having better hands going second, because drawing both of these cards going second is generally really freaking bad, in comparison to going first. And I don't think having the extra options going first is super crazy value. Like I said, sometimes in the end phase you can like Shizuku search Shark Cannon and like revive something, so you have like an extra piece of interaction. But generally, it's just not real. For Super Poly, we're playing Mud Dragon. We're playing Garuba. Unfortunately, Cool Tune is very relevant. Sea Monster of Theseus is the way you get through that. I don't like having to stick this card in my extra deck. Also, Cool Tune gets to look at your hand and then go, oh, they have Super Poly, and then try to play around it. But I found that usually that makes it insanely awkward for them. Also, side note, when you're facing Cool Tune, make sure to at some point remove the field spell. If you're playing, I find that removing the field spell is usually pretty trivial. But you do want to remove it because it makes it so they have like 3 pushes on their turn, because they'll have like Rotary Field Spell and another thing. It's just like 3 normal summons. Depending on what exactly they were able to search and what they set up in there for follow-up. Which is usually, they're going to usually focus on interaction over follow-up in my experience, so usually it's fine. But you still want to get rid of the field spell, because the field spell is a really powerful couple of pushes from the normal summon they get, because usually you'd have to have like a Widowmaker droplet in order to answer the effect, but then also the field spell is going to tribute and summon another one, which is just another push for you to have to worry about. I'm playing Tugari 2-0. You just recycle these with Luminous Gate. One Shizuku, sometimes you go in face, you want to search. Hayate, attack directly. Send. This can be powerful reminder that if you like draw Rose and you need to get into Ray, and they have an attack position monster with 1500 or more attack, you can crash into it with Hayate, send Ray, and then Ray will summon herself before your opponent gets to do anything, which is just a powerful option you can have at hand sometimes. This is Kaina's not real. I have not summoned Kaina in so long, since like access code was relevant, and then it was stop access code. And if you want something to stop access code, you can play the other 0. This one, because it negates the effect. I've considered playing Engage 0, but I feel like because I'm playing Super Poly, I just don't have enough room in my extra deck to justify putting it in. And Kaina's at least a link 1 that I can link off for something else, and you get stuck on Engage 0 sometimes, which feels miserable. Amatsu is like way better than you think it is. Not for the negate effect, but sometimes for the negate effect. But mainly because with Amatsu, what I found is against demand decks, you'll get into weird game states where you'll have like Amatsu plus 0 or something stupid like that, and you can like Amatsu target your 0 plus one of their back row. They can't really negate it because it's a battle phase, so they can't activate their continuous, and they'll need like a strike, which if they had, they would have used at some point before you had like 2 bodies on field. And then you get to get rid of like 2 back row. And it's just really good. Plus probably a monster in battle. So there are weird game states against Odeon in particular where I found Amatsu is very good. By the way, Super Poly sometimes will be clutch against their continuous traps because they usually have 2 Earths. So you'll be able to make like Mud Dragon, I think. I can't remember what they usually have. I just know Super Poly's life, and I've used it to blank what would otherwise be a negate. Somatsu, I think, is just really good. Side note, you cannot Super Poly after you use linkage, so try to keep that in mind. Zeke. This is a banish. Pretty generic. Just a Sky Striker ace plus Zeke plus any monster. It's good. Azalea. This is another reason Amatsu is good. It's a dark. This lets you just make Azalea realistically. So you get to, this pops the card, and then you can get over cards in battle. Something I actually had come up even just today was against Cool Tune. If they make the Synchro 10 BTB, you can like if you have access to 2 monsters, you can avoid activating it at all. Steal one of their guys, or maybe you have a way to get another body on board, like Hornet Drones or something, and you can just make this go battle phase. Use the effect to pop this, assuming, like I said before, pay attention to loudness 4, because it's going to only activate against monster effects. But specifically I had Outburst because I needed to steal loudness 4, and then make Azalea, and then pop up. It was, so that's pretty good. Camellia is just a generic 2-effect monsters. Sometimes you can use this to turn bros into at least an extra spell engrave, which is better than nothing. Maybe send engage with Camellia. Sometimes Camellia can send Ray. I can't think of a time I've had that I actually wanted to do that. Camellia can, in some really scuffed hands, just be an end board piece where you get to tribute an opponent's monster. Usually I don't really believe in that, though. But I've had it where that comes up. I think Camellia is importantly flexible enough, and also offers a way for you to get back on engine where you wouldn't be able to otherwise. Sometimes you have, like, Widow Anchor, and if you're playing a more hand trap focused version of the deck, you can, like, normal summon your hand trap. I'm just playing Maxi right now, so realistically that's not gonna happen, like, ever, but it could. Also, once again, Shark Cannon is something that could come up where if you have, like, Widow Anchor Shark Cannon, you suddenly have engine. Little Knight is here because I have the alt art. It's also a banish from grave. I do realistically think if you're playing this deck and you don't play Shark Cannon, that you should play SP Little Knight for the graveyard banish. I think that'll come up, but usually it doesn't. But sometimes it will. Sometimes it's like an extra piece of interaction that'll be pretty strong, or it'll be a piece of interaction that goes into a dark, that makes it so you can make Azalea, that makes it so you can whatever. And then, of course, 0. This is just a pop. And summon 2, frequently that's what you want to do when you're going second. I do not think you should prioritize getting engaged when you're going second most of the time, unless you can end on 0. I've seen a lot of people who will go second, and they'll try to get engaged first thing, and I just don't think that's worth it. Like, unless you have a super name-heavy hand, in which case your hand's bad, and usually even then, I still don't want to go for engage, because you have a name-heavy hand, and you're going to have to, like, go linkage right after. I don't know. I don't believe in it. The pop is usually better, unless, like I said, if your hand's strong enough to, like, break through the board and then, like, go Kagari, and then, like, make 0 so you're ending on 0. I think ending on 0 is very powerful. I think starting with 0 can also be very powerful, but if you're starting with 0, you should be using it to break the board, not to access engage. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I feel like I've seen too many people who use this as, instead of a board breaker, and to acknowledge the power it has, especially, like, it has 2,000 attack, which is usually good enough to run over something important, and then either force an Ash or a piece of interaction. Once again, if you have multiple names, then I'd rather, like, force that interaction, right? It can sometimes make it so that your engage can actually resolve. Also, it doesn't play into Droll, which I find to be very powerful when you're going second. In particular, is to have hands that can actually, like, beat Droll sometimes. I have found that it's just not worth it to build a main deck around Droll, but you do want to play around Droll to the best that your hand will let you most of the time when you're going second, in particular. But sometimes you just have to ignore it and pray they don't have it. That's just how Droll is. Yeah. Previously I was playing 3 Ash in this deck for the Duelist Cup, and I cut Ash because I felt like my bad hands were ones where I drew too many monsters. So I cut Ash. Do not regret doing that. I don't really have too much to say. I think you could consider playing, like, an Ash, maybe a Bell, and, like, a cross out. But I don't think playing Bell's worth it. I don't think Bell's a good enough hand trap in the format to play. Um, but realistically, the set of cards I just said is just because Crossout is a conceptually broken card, and Ash and Maxi and sometimes Spell are just like way too strong. Like Ash negates Maxi and stuff, but I just think usually it just doesn't matter. But yeah, instead of the Ash, I'm playing an extra Talents and an extra Lemniscate. I'm trying to see what else I have different from the older version of the deck. Oh yeah, I put in the Foolish Burial Goods and Metal Foes Fusion. I realistically think Foolish Burial Goods and Fusion will change. At some point. They're like fine. I just don't think they're as good as I want them to be. But yeah, maybe I'll try more engine for them. Not sure. But yeah, like I said, at this deck list, this deck has performed very well for me this month. I think it matches reasonably well into Cool Tune, and that's why it does so well, because that deck is very popular. Cool Tune lecture to hand. Like I said before, the thing I wanted to explain is part of the reason I'm playing all the draw cards is I think the important thing that'll happen against Cool Tune is they'll look at your hand and they'll like make a game plan, right? And they get to choose the top of your deck as well. You're not playing any hand traps. You're not going to stop them from doing that. Even if you maxi, they're usually going to like Q, Rotary, make the level 4, whose name I can't remember for whatever reason right now. And they're still probably going to look at your hand at top deck. What your draw cards do, like Upstart, Vision, and such, is it makes it so that they can't track your hand anymore. And I think that's a critically important part of playing against that deck, where you'll hit them with something they're not expecting. But also sometimes they just play like garbage, and they'll do something like a negated jamming waves they shouldn't, because they could have just chained Synchro, and you can only destroy Loudness War, and they could have kept RS for the engage in your hand that they knew about, when they've already revealed at this point they don't have Ash. That's a very specific game I'm referring to. But yeah. Still like this deck. I think it's pretty well positioned in the current meta. Don't run into towers, and you'll be fine. But realistically, I think if you run into Lunalight, you're just gonna die unless you went first. And you're just gonna have to be okay with that. I guess if you really, really hate losing to specific decks that I literally haven't seen this entire time. I also didn't see in the last DC Cap either, to be very clear. Although maybe Cool Tune is worse into it, but I don't think so. It seems like they should be able to out, because RS gets so big and they can protect it with Loudness War. It seems like that shouldn't be a real deck. But you could hypothetically put in a Hamp. I would do it over Jamming Waves if you're going to put in Hamp. But I don't believe in Hamp. And also Jamming Waves is something you can like enable with your own cards. And I have them with like Metal Foes and stuff. But yeah. Oh, side note. I do not think the event they had, where they have the second player draw 6 cards, I think this might statistically make going second better. But I just played Striker in this event, and this game I surrendered because I ran out of time, by the way. I lost one game. I went first several times. I forget. This is a game I went second in, by the way. It's almost like this is not good enough for going second. It doesn't fix the like big combo problems with going second. I maxied them, by the way. They ashed it and then they maxied me, which was very funny. It didn't matter. I drew through. My hand was garbage, but like, I hope this isn't a change they make. I think while it would make going second more likely to win. I don't think it does it in an interesting way, and B, it kind of encourages, like, if hand traps are the best way to do it, they're just encouraging, like, this hand trap non-game thing, where just you can't play, but the player going second is more likely to draw them. I think if the answer is, like, Charmies and stuff, then at least you have hypothetically a way to play around them. But I think Charmies tend to be polarizing in terms of, like, cutting certain decks out of being able to play realistically, and I think it's really lame to have, like, formats held together by cards that just boot out perfectly fair decks by making it so that if they play, they just kind of auto lose. Anyways, too long, didn't read kind of thing. I think they should just stop decks from having super powerful inboards that auto win when they go first, and not give the player, like, another extra card. That's it. Alright, I'm going. My rant is over. I get why people like the event, and it's because statistically I think it makes going second better, but I don't think it does it in a good, interesting way. Which would be, I think you should be able to go second with no non-engine, and if you have, like, a good hand, you should at least expect to be able to, like, play the game against your opponent, and where if they make a misplay they can lose, and not have, like, such overwhelming going first advantage that you just lose the game anyways if they went first, even if they misplay. Or have a deck that just, like, negates so much that they can't misplay as long as they negate the cards you activate. Or effectively negate them. Alright. I'm shutting up now. Bye.